Hi, welcome. And today I'm just talking about some aspects of cropping images um, for creative purposes. Just a few tips and thoughts on this. Um, with this image, it's a nice capture. It's one of my urban portraits. But as you can probably tell fairly quickly, there's one rather glaring problem with it, which is that I wasn't exactly holding the camera level when I shot this, and it's all leaning over to the side. And if I want to use this image, I'm pretty much compelled to fix this vertical problem. And if you've watched the other videos, you'll know that there are. We could do this. We thought about doing this previously using transformation. We could even get into lens correction. But I just wanted to show you there's a much easier way of doing this. If we use the crop tool, so just clear that out of the way. We need straighten on, delete crop pixels, and content aware is the key thing. Content aware fills areas outside the original image. So when we have these things switched on, and we go into crop, you'll see that we get the same kind of transform handles that we get from the transform tool. And in the simplest case, I could use a guide, but let's use the grid instead for this. All I need to do now is just move my image round, and I'm just doing this by eye until my brick wall has got a nice vertical on it. Now, if we were doing a transform and we accepted this, we'd then have to go in and we'd have to crop this because we wouldn't want to present the image with these black artifacts at the side. But with content aware crop, if we just press the accept and we just give Photoshop a moment or two to do its fill operation, okay, so you can see that the magic happened. Photoshop automatically filled those artifacts in with appropriate pixels. And we can just check that if you'd like to. Just go in and examine those corners. They are pretty much perfect. Well, in fact, they are perfect. So it's a really clever way of doing it, and it means that you can, if you want to just quickly straighten an image, and you're happy to trust Photoshop to fill in those artifacts for you, then it's a really great way of doing it. Okay, so something else that I was just going to move on to talk about is if I decide that I want to crop this image in quite sort of drastically. I mean, this really applies to any kind of crop I might want to do. If I was, say, let's go on to, let's use a rule of thirds grid. Let's say that simple case, I just wanted to center my subject in the image. Something like that. And, you know, maybe I want to pull down on the top. Maybe I want to pull up at the bottom. So, obviously I have complete freedom to crop this image however I like, which is great. And if I run the crop, there we are. That's the result. That's very nice. Except the only slight problem I've got is that I've now reduced my image size considerably. And I don't really want to do that. What I would really like to happen is I would like to be able to do my crop, and I would like to end up with an image of the same size that I started with. And of course, this is even more of a problem. If I decide that I like this image and I want to use it to make a really tight crop on this model's face, I can do that, and I've got the pixels to do that. But now I've ended up with an image which is, heading down to being about half the size of the original. So I'm just going to step back from those crops. What I need to do is set things up so that Photoshop will produce an image of the same size from whatever crop I do. And the easy way to do this is just to set up a preset. Now, to set up a preset, I could, for example, say that I wanted to be able to make a crop and force it to be some arbitrary size like that. So I can do my crop, and then it will force it to be of that size. And those proportions, which are, slightly strange idea, but really what I'm just trying to show you is how to create a crop preset. So here what I'm going to do is say, let's make a crop preset from this, those values I set. Oh, and I think these got reversed, which is something you need to watch out for. It will sometimes reverse these values depending on how you manipulate the crop handles. So I can create a crop preset for any size image that I want to have. But what I want to have is an image which is the same size as my standard image, which is 5760 by 3840. So whenever I need to do that, I can just select my crop preset. It will fill in the values for me up here. And now when I do my rather radical and exciting crop to create a completely different kind of image, Photoshop will resize my image to be the same size as the original. And I find this extremely useful because a lot of the time this is what I want for when I'm trying to work creatively with the pixels I've got in a given image. I want to create a really nice, interesting, rather different view of the image. I want it to automatically resolve itself to the same dimensions. Okay, so if we just step back from that, and the other thing that I just wanted to quickly mention was the dimension presets in Photoshop. So here what we've got is rule of thirds. There's a preset grid. And this means that this is perhaps the commonest thing that people use, I think, when they want to think in terms of centering the image, for example, or if we want to think in terms of completely changing the orientation of the image to move the subject in terms of rule of thirds distribution. Okay, so rule of thirds I think is probably the most common thing, but there are other grids you can use, and the one which is quite interesting is golden ratio, and this will give you if you want to position your subject and particularly your subject's face in relation to the golden ratio, you can use that as a perhaps more accurate kind of centering. Depends rather what you're trying to do, but it is very much worth exploring the golden ratio as well. If you need to get very precise facial proportions, say you're doing a real kind of close-up image, you can use that. Other things like we have diagonal. So if you need to set a diagonal, golden spiral, which is the kind of Fibonacci type of grid, which I haven't found particularly useful so far, but maybe I'll look further into it. But most of the time I'm working with rule of thirds, and I'm either probably centering my image, or I'm wanting to position the subject somewhere in relation to one of the thirds. But cropping is a lot of fun. Creative cropping. There's a lot of things you can do, and I hope you find those tips useful and perhaps give you some ideas for working creatively with your own images and the crop tool. Okay, so thanks very much, and see you soon.